My name is Emma Calloway, and I'm 31 years old. On paper, my life looked boring in the best possible way. I'm a data analyst for a very buttoned up finance company. My job is serious. My bosses are serious. The numbers are serious. I like it that way. It's predictable, stable. Every quarter has a rhythm. Every spreadsheet is a puzzle I can solve if I stare at it long enough. I live in a one-bedroom condo that I bought myself 3 years ago, back when interest rates didn't feel like punishment. My name is the only one on the deed. My credit score is the reason the bank gave me the keys. Every piece of furniture in that place has a memory attached to a coupon code, a late-night online sale, or a carefully colored box on my budget spreadsheet. I'm the kind of woman who keeps receipts in labeled envelopes and sets calendar reminders for when promotional interest ends. It's not glamorous, but no part of my life has ever been an accident. Well, except for my ex-boyfriend. His name is Noah Vance, 28. Charming in that photogenic, social media polished way that makes people assume his life is perfect because his grid is. He has that practiced, easy half smile that says, "Relax, I've got this," even when he very clearly does not. We'd been dating for 3 years. He lived with me in my condo, and up until very recently, I thought I loved him. Noah has this quirk. He's a prankster, not the harmless kind, not the whoopee cushion, confetti in the umbrella kind. Noah's humor is the record you falling down the stairs and put it on TikTok kind. The hide your keys right when you're late for a meeting and laugh when you panic kind. The kind that's always at someone else's expense, usually mine. I used to tell myself it was immaturity, a phase, something he'd grow out of when life got serious enough. I tried talking to him about it. "Noah, that wasn't funny. You could have really hurt me," I'd say, rubbing a bruised knee or trying to calm my racing heart. He'd just roll his eyes and grin. "Oh my God, Em, stop being so sensitive. It's a joke. You're fine." And every time I'd swallow my annoyance, file it away, and tell myself, next time I'll be firmer. Next time, I won't laugh it off. There's always a next time when you ignore the first red flag. Yesterday, next time turned into last time. It was a regular Tuesday. I was deep in a quarterly projection spreadsheet, headphones on, color coding cells like my life depended on it. The office was quiet in that late afternoon way, all soft keyboard clicks and the hum of the air conditioning. Around 2:30 p.m., I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned, expecting my manager. Instead, I saw 2 police officers standing behind my chair. For a moment, my brain refused to process what I was seeing. The entire open-plan floor went silent. I could feel people staring, the way they do when something bad is happening and they're grateful it's not to them. My boss, Patrick, Pat, was standing in his doorway, pale and wide-eyed. One of the officers cleared his throat. "Ma'am, are you Emma Calloway?" My mouth went dry. "Yes, that's me. Is something wrong?" "Ma'am, we need you to come with us," the first officer said. "We're responding to a report regarding the vehicle you're operating." "My car?" I heard my voice go thin and high. "What about my car?" "A gray sedan was reported stolen this morning at approximately 10:15 a.m. For a second, the world tilted. "Stolen," I whispered. "I drove it here. It's in the garage." They were looking at me like I was a criminal, in front of my boss, in front of my coworkers. My ears rang. I could feel heat crawling up my neck. "That's my car," I stammered. "I bought it. It's registered in my name. I drove it to work this morning. There must be some mistake." The second officer's hand hovered a little closer to his belt. "Ma'am, let's just take a walk down to the parking garage. Please keep your hands where we can see them." I stood up on shaky legs, feeling every pair of eyes on me as the officers escorted me across the office floor. Past HR, past the VP's glass-walled office. I caught a glimpse of my reflection, pale, wild-eyed, like someone in a news clip about white-collar crime. We rode the elevator down in suffocating silence. In the garage, the concrete smell hit me, strangely sharp. I walked them straight to my car. "That's it," I said, "right there." The officers exchanged a look. "Who reported it stolen?" I asked, a cold dread already forming in my chest. The first officer checked his notes. A Mr. Noah Vance filed the report. He stated he was your boyfriend and that the car was missing. He suspected theft. Noah. For a heartbeat, my brain tried to fix it. Maybe the car app glitched. Maybe he thought someone else was driving it. But no, I could practically hear his voice already. "Babe, it was just a joke. Your face must have been priceless." I pulled out my keys with shaking hands, unlocked the car, popped the glove box, and handed over my registration and insurance, both in my name. My ID matched everything. I was overprepared, as usual. The officers' faces shifted from suspicion to irritation. "Ma'am," the second officer said, "it appears your boyfriend filed a false police report." The first officer nodded. "Which is a crime, a serious one. We had to dispatch a unit, pull you out of work. This could have gone very differently." He likes pranks," I said weakly, hearing how pathetic it sounded out loud. "I think he thought this was funny." They looked disgusted. They handed me back my documents. "Have a good day, ma'am," the first officer said. "You're going to need to have a very serious conversation with Mr. Vance." They left. I stood alone in the garage for a full 5 minutes, just breathing and trying not to throw up. The humiliation was complete. I had to go back upstairs, walk through that same office, sit at that same desk, and pretend I was fine. Pat didn't say anything when I came back. He just gave me a long, measured look, shook his head once, and went back into his office. The rest of my day was a blur. Back at my desk, my phone lit up. Notifications stacked on top of each other like falling bricks. Noah: "Babe, did the cops really show up at your work?" Noah: "Tell me everything. OMG, your face must have been priceless." Noah: "Don't be mad, Em. It was just a prank." Pat probably himself epic. I stared at the messages, the emojis, the casual cruelty, and felt something inside me go very, very still. This was the person I was living with, the person I'd thought I would maybe marry someday. He had risked my job, my reputation, my safety. He had put armed officers between me and my own car, for a laugh. My anger wasn't hot, it was Arctic. A switch flipped. I typed back 2 words. "Good one." Then I closed my laptop, told Pat I needed to take personal time to deal with a legal matter, and left. The condo felt different when I walked in. Too quiet, too staged, like I was stepping into evidence photos of my own life. Noah wasn't home, probably out celebrating or filming a reaction video in his head. I went straight to our bedroom. Noah loved jewelry, watches, chains, rings. Over the last couple of years, I'd spoiled him. I have a good salary, and I was stupidly in love. The centerpiece was a matching jewelry set I'd had custom made from an artisan jeweler: bracelet, chain, and ring. White gold, deep blue sapphires, surrounded by small diamonds. I designed it myself through Katie drawings. I kept the original empty boxes, the receipts, the emails. I had added riders for them on my condo insurance. Total insured value, just over $30,000. I took the empty boxes and all the documentation. I stood in the middle of the bedroom, my heart pounding, and thought about every time he'd told me I was too sensitive. Every time he'd laughed while I cried. Every time he'd filmed me without my consent for likes. Okay, I thought, you want serious life-altering pranks? Let's play. I drove to a different precinct than the one that had come to my office, sat down at the desk, smoothed my skirt, and channeled every ounce of controlled, trembling hurt into my voice. "I need to report a theft," I told the officer. "I think my boyfriend and I are breaking up. We had a fight. I came home from work and he's gone. And he took things that aren't his." "What did he take, ma'am?" the officer asked. Professional. Bored. "Jewelry," I said. "A very specific, very expensive custom set that I bought and insured in my name. I have the receipts, the insurance policy, and photos. It's worth over $30,000. I'm worried he's going to try to sell it." "Are you sure these items weren't gifts?" he asked. "Something you gave him?" I swallowed. "I bought them. They're on my insurance. I considered them an investment. He had access to them, but I never formally transferred ownership. They're missing. He's gone. That's theft." The officer took copies of everything: my ID, the receipts, the policy, the photos. "Okay, Ms. Calloway," he said finally. "We'll open a report. We have his name, Noah Vance, and phone number, and a description of the items. A detective will reach out to him. If he's in possession of stolen goods, that's a felony." I thanked him, hands still shaking, and went home. On my way back, I called a 24/7 locksmith. By the time the sun went down, every lock on my condo was changed. I poured myself a large whiskey I didn't really like, sat on my couch, and stared at the front door. His conversation with the police was not going to be as funny as mine. It took about 24 hours for the fun to start. I'd taken a personal day. Told Pat I was dealing with a legal situation that showed up at the office yesterday. He didn't push. He just nodded, the way someone does when they know they've already seen more than they wanted to. I was sitting on my couch, laptop closed, TV off, just waiting. For what? I wasn't sure. Consequences, maybe. Regret. Fear. Any of the things you're supposed to feel when you file a report that could get someone charged with a felony. My phone lit up. Noah. Emma, what did you do? Noah, the police called me. A detective. He's saying I stole the sapphire set. Are you insane? Noah, this isn't funny. This is my jewelry. You gave it to me. Call me. Call them. Tell them you lied. More messages came in, stacked one after another, a digital tantrum. Noah, you have to tell them it was a joke. This isn't like the car. You're taking it too far. Interesting choice of words. I stared at the screen for a long moment, feeling my heart rate steady instead of spike. I typed one message back. Was it a prank? A few dots appeared, disappeared, reappeared. Then a voice-to-text essay came in, half sobbing, half swearing, a stream of, "You're crazy," and "You can't do this to me," and "I'll lose everything." The word prank popped up twice. I put the phone face down on the coffee table. About an hour later, the banging started. Loud, frantic pounding on my freshly changed front door. It rattled in the frame. I jumped, then forced myself to sit still for another 2 knocks before I moved. I walked over and looked through the peephole. Noah. His eyes were red, his hair a mess, still in the hoodie he liked to film TikToks in. He didn't look like a guy pulling a funny stunt. He looked like someone whose world had finally realized it could push back. "Emma!" he yelled, voice muffled through the door. "Open up. Seriously, open the door." I kept my hand on the deadbolt, but I didn't turn it. "Noah, you don't live here anymore," I said, my voice calm in a way I didn't feel. "The locks are changed." He froze. You changed the locks? Are you kidding me?" "I'm not kidding," I said. "You filed a false police report that got me dragged out of my job in handcuffs adjacent energy. That was the last day you were my boyfriend. You can pick up your things later, with a police escort if you'd like, since we both love involving them so much." "You can't do this," he shouted, slamming his hand against the door again. "My stuff is in there." "Your things," I corrected automatically, because I couldn't help myself, "are in the guest room. We can schedule a time with an officer present so there are no misunderstandings." "I'm not talking about my clothes," his voice cracked. "I'm talking about the jewelry. The detective said I'm in possession of stolen property. Emma, they used the word felony. You have to fix this. You have to tell them it was a joke." "But it wasn't a joke," I said quietly. "You want to talk about jokes? Reporting my car stolen so armed officers showed up at my office. That was your joke. This is a property dispute." "I'll sue you," he snapped. I could hear his breathing, uneven, angry. "I'll tell everyone you're psycho. You're abusive. You're ruining my life over a misunderstanding." "You filed a criminal report to humiliate me for content," I said. "I filed a report because my property is missing. There's a difference." I let a bead of silence hang between us. "You're trespassing, Noah," I added. "Please leave before I call the police, and this time it won't be a prank." He screamed a few more things, words that used to make me flinch. This time they just sounded recycled. Eventually, the pounding stopped. His footsteps faded down the hall. I thought I'd feel guilty. Instead, I felt hollow, tired, and underneath the exhaustion, a small, bitter seam of satisfaction. It wasn't over. Entitlement never leaves on the first knock. The next evening, around 8, the banging came back, louder this time, heavy, meant to intimidate. I checked the peephole. Noah again. And next to him, a man in an immaculate charcoal suit and an expression that screamed, "I've never been told no in my life." Alistair Vance, Noah's father. I'd met him exactly 3 times. Each interaction had left a film on my skin. He was a property developer, his words, who liked to talk about my projects and my people as if everything and everyone in a 10-mile radius belonged to him. I didn't open the door. Instead, I pressed the button for the video intercom. His face appeared on the small screen, distorted slightly by the camera. Noah hovered behind him, arms crossed, looking like a kid hiding behind his dad at the principal's office. "Can I help you?" I asked. "Emma," Alistair said, his voice smooth but edged with steel. "Open this door. We need to have a talk, adult to adult." "I don't think so," I replied. "We have nothing to talk about. Please leave my property." He blinked slowly, as if the word no was a foreign language. His jaw tightened. "Don't be ridiculous," he said. "You filed a false police report against my son. That's a crime. You're in over your head, and you don't even realize it. Open the door so we can settle this quietly." I almost laughed. "You mean like when he filed a false report about my car? The one that got me pulled out of my office in front of my entire company?" His eyes flashed. That was a misunderstanding, a childish prank. He's apologized. This, he jabbed a finger at the camera. This is malicious. You're trying to ruin his life over a few pieces of jewelry. Malicious? I repeated. My report says I bought them, I insured them, they're missing, and he has them. That's not malicious. That's factual. Your son weaponized the police for a joke. I'm asking them to mediate a property dispute. He stepped closer to the camera. I could see the faint lines around his eyes now, the way his nostrils flared. You are going to call that detective, he said slowly, carefully, like he was dictating a contract. You are going to retract your statement, and you are going to apologize to Noah. If you don't, I will personally make sure you regret it. I will call your CEO. I will make trouble for you at that little job of yours that you can't even begin to imagine. There it was, the real man, slipping out from behind the suit. Wow, I said. That sounds like a threat. Is this another one of those misunderstandings you're so fond of? Or should I forward this recording to the detective along with the report number? His face went purple, just like I'd watched it do once before when a waiter told him the restaurant was out of his preferred wine. You think your analyst position is safe? He snapped. You think that company won't cut you loose to avoid drama? You are harassing my son. Let me see if I've got this straight, I said. Your son files a false police report that could have gotten me arrested, or worse, at my place of employment. That's a prank. I file a report about $30,000 of my insured property that he refuses to return, and that's harassment. I shook my head, even though he couldn't see it. Noah's report was false, mine is not. There's a difference, Mr. Vance. You'll regret this, he spat. You have no idea who you're messing with, young lady. This isn't over. I'm sure it isn't, I said, but for tonight, it is. Please leave my property. If you don't, I'll call the police. I'm sure the detective handling your son's case would love to hear how you're trying to threaten a witness. For a moment, it looked like he might actually try to break the door down. Then he spun on his heel and stalked away, Noah at his side. I watched them go, on the grainy little screen, feeling oddly outside my own life, like I was watching the season finale of a show I hadn't meant to star in. He wasn't kidding about calling my job. The next morning, my inbox pinged with a subject line that made my stomach drop. Urgent, HR meeting, 10:03 a.m. My heart thudded. Underneath, a dull, unsurprised resignation settled in. Of course he'd gone there, of course. At 9:58, I walked into a small conference room with glass walls. Pat was there, hands folded, expression serious but not hostile. Beside him sat Maya from HR, tablet in front of her, a neutral half-smile on her face that didn't reach her eyes. Hi, Emma, she said. Thanks for coming in. Of course, I replied, forcing my voice to stay even as I sat down. I saw the email. I assume this is about Noah and his father. Pat raised an eyebrow. So you already have a guess? Maya glanced at her notes. We received a very aggressive call this morning from a man named Alistair Vance. He identified himself as your ex-boyfriend's father. Ex is correct, I said, very ex. He said you're mentally unstable, Maya continued, her professional tone not softening the words. That you're stalking his son. That you're filing fraudulent police reports out of spite. Those are serious accusations. We wanted to hear from you directly. I took a breath. It didn't steady me, but it gave me half a second to decide. Lie, downplay, or tell the whole ugly truth. I chose truth. You both remember the officers who came here yesterday? I said. They pulled me off the floor because my car had been reported stolen. Pat's jaw clenched. Hard to forget. That report was filed by Noah, I said. My then-boyfriend. He admitted in text messages that it was a prank. I have those messages, if you'd like to see them. Maya's fingers paused on her tablet. A false report, she clarified, as in, he knowingly reported a non-crime to the police. Yes, I said, knowing they could show up here, knowing I work with sensitive financial information. He thought it would be funny. Pat let out a short, angry breath. Unbelievable. I ended the relationship immediately, I continued. We're also in a dispute over a custom jewelry set worth over $30,000 that I bought and insured in my name. He has it. I filed a theft report. His father came to my home last night and threatened to have my job and call my CEO if I didn't retract my statement. This call to you is him making good on that threat. Silence hung for a moment. Maya exchanged a look with Pat, then turned back to me. You said you have documentation. Yes, I said. I slid my phone across the table, the text queued up. The messages about the car prank, the report case number. I also have the video intercom recording of his father's visit. I can email that to you. They read. Pat's face got harder with every swipe. Maya's practiced neutrality cracked around the edges. So, to be crystal clear, Pat said finally, looking up at me, then at Maya. Your ex-boyfriend filed a false police report that resulted in officers coming to this office in the middle of a workday. As a joke. Yes, I said. And his father called this company to threaten your job as leverage in a personal legal matter. That's exactly what's happening, I replied. Pat actually laughed. A short, disbelieving bark. Well, that is the single stupidest intimidation tactic I've seen in 20 years of management. Maya nodded. Emma, this is a personal legal dispute. It has zero bearing on your performance here, which, for the record, has been excellent. We're documenting Mr. Vance's call as harassment toward an employee. If he contacts the company again, he'll be speaking with our legal counsel. A tight knot I hadn't even realized I was carrying in my chest loosened slightly. So, I said slowly, I'm not in trouble? No, Pat said. You are not in trouble. But my God, Emma. He shook his head. Get a new boyfriend. Something like a laugh bubbled up in my throat. It came out a little strangled, but it was there. Working on it, I said. I walked out of that room feeling shaky, but lighter. Seen, in a way. Not like a suspect, but like someone whose reality had been confirmed. The fight was far from over. That became painfully clear later that afternoon, when I came home, unlocked my very secure front door, and saw a thick envelope taped to it. Not from Noah, from a law firm. The envelope was cream-colored, the expensive kind, with a heavy, embossed logo in the corner. My stomach twisted even before I opened it. Inside was a letter that began, Notice of Civil Action, Vance versus Calloway. I read it 3 times, standing in the doorway like someone had just hit pause on my life. Noah was suing me. Not for the jewelry. For defamation of character, emotional distress, and conversion. Which, as my brain sluggishly recalled from a contract law seminar years ago, meant claiming someone took property that wasn't theirs. I almost laughed. The absurdity was so complete it circled back to terrifying. The letter gave me 5 business days to respond through legal counsel. I didn't even make it 5 minutes before I was on the phone. Hi, yes, I said, trying to keep my voice steady as I scrolled through a list of firms. I need a lawyer for a defamation and property dispute case. No, I'm not the one being accused. Well, actually, I am, but not the way it sounds. It took 6 calls before I found someone willing to meet on short notice. Her name was Tara Lynn, and she had the kind of voice that could slice through panic without raising its volume. Bring everything, she said. Texts, receipts, the police report, that letter. We'll sort the rest. I drove across town, sat in her minimalist office with shaking hands, and slid the stack of documents across her desk. Tara read silently for several minutes, expression unreadable. Then she exhaled a short, sharp laugh. Well, she said, flipping a page, he's ambitious. This is what we call a slap suit, a strategic lawsuit against public participation, designed to intimidate you with legal costs until you cave. So, he's not actually trying to win? I asked. He's trying to bleed you dry, she said simply. Force you to withdraw your report. But this, she tapped the paperwork, is smoke. The real fire is still the criminal side. The theft report, I asked? Mm-hmm. The detective on that case, Alvarez, he's been in the department for over 20 years. Not exactly a fan of people using his badge as a punchline. He saw both reports, yours and your ex's stolen car prank. He's not amused. I frowned. What does that mean? It means, she said, leaning back, he's seen 2 people turn his station into a playground, and he's ready to end it. He called me this morning, actually. My heartbeat stuttered. He what? Tara smirked. He wants everyone in the same room. You, your ex, both lawyers, to settle this before he sends both cases to the DA. His words, not mine. So, I said slowly, like mediation? Think of it more as a come-to-Jesus meeting, she said dryly. You'll want to be calm, factual, and dressed like the adult in the room. Alvarez strikes me as the kind of man who values composure more than theatrics. I nodded, absorbing the words DA and charges as my stomach tightened. When? I asked. Tuesday morning, she said. And Emma... Her tone softened. Don't worry, you're in the right here. But right doesn't mean cheap. My retainer is $5,000 a day. I swallowed hard. I can wire it today. Good, she said with a small, approving smile. Now, go home. Eat something. Sleep if you can. You're about to see just how fast a prank can turn into a war. Tuesday morning. The precinct's waiting area smelled like burnt coffee and disinfectant. The air had that hum of tension unique to places where everyone's worst moment has a file number. I sat next to Tara, palms slick against the folder in my lap. Across the room, Noah slouched in a chair, wearing black head to toe. His attempt at looking serious, probably. He wasn't wearing any jewelry, which made me wonder if he'd hidden the set or pawned it. Next to him sat his father, Alistair, still the human embodiment of a luxury watch ad. And beside him, a lawyer who could have been his clone. Same slicked back hair, same smug half smile. A door opened. Detective Alvarez stepped out. Mid-50s, solid build, gray at the temples, the kind of cop who didn't need to raise his voice to make a room listen. "Calloway, Vance," he said. "Come on back." We followed him down a hall into a small, windowless interview room with a steel table and a box of tissues someone had left half empty. "Sit," Alvarez said. His tone wasn't unkind, but it wasn't one you argued with. When everyone was settled, he dropped 2 thick files onto the table with a flat thunk. "I'm going to be blunt," he said. "I've been doing this job for 20 years. This is the single dumbest pair of reports I've had on my desk in at least 15. Noah shifted in his chair, cheeks flushing. Alistair looked ready to object, but Alvarez kept talking. "On the one hand," he said, tapping the first folder, "we've got Mr. Vance, who admitted in text messages to filing a false police report about a stolen car as a prank. That's a misdemeanor. It's also a crime, and I can send it straight to the DA if I want." Noah's lawyer opened his mouth. Alvarez held up a hand. "Don't." He turned to the second file. On the other hand, Ms. Calloway filed a report for the theft of a jewelry set valued at over $30,000. She has receipts, insurance, and ownership proof. Your client claims it was a gift. He glanced at me, then back to them. "This looks like a retaliatory report. You both are using my department like a playground, and I don't appreciate it." The room was silent, except for the faint buzz of the fluorescent lights. Finally, Noah's lawyer leaned forward. "Detective, my client is the victim of defamation and emotional harm. He's been dragged through the mud over a misunderstanding." Tara's smile was sharp and small. "Your client filed a false police report that publicly humiliated mine at her workplace. We have text evidence. That's not a misunderstanding. That's reckless endangerment." "Enough," Alvarez cut in. "Here's where we're at. I can send both these cases to the DA, and you'll each spend tens of thousands of dollars fighting criminal charges. Or," he leaned back in his chair, "you can act like adults and make this go away right now." Alistair bristled. "My son has nothing to make go away. He's the victim here." Alvarez's gaze didn't waver. "Your son's the one who started it. And you," he pointed a pen at him, "are one phone call away from a harassment charge for threatening her employer." The silence that followed could have cut glass. Tara slid a single sheet of paper across the table. "Our offer is simple," she said. "Ms. Calloway agrees to drop the felony theft complaint. Mr. Vance agrees to drop his civil suit and return all of the jewelry. Today, right now, in this room." Noah's lawyer gave a humorless chuckle. "That's not happening. The pieces were gifts." "Then we'll roll the dice with the DA," Tara said coolly. "The false report about the car is open and shut. We're more than happy to let that run its course." Alvarez nodded once. "She's right. That one's easy. Slam dunk conviction." Noah turned pale. "Wait," he said, his voice small. "You mean I could actually—" "Be charged," Alvarez finished. "Yes, with a criminal record that'll follow you for life. So ask yourself, son, are those sapphires worth it?" The silence stretched. Then Noah's lawyer leaned in toward him, whispering something low and urgent. Alistair started shaking his head, face red. "No," Noah said weakly. "They're mine. She gave them to me." Alvarez sighed. "Mr. Vance, this is your last chance. Return the items, and we close both reports. Otherwise, I walk these files to the DA's office this afternoon." Noah's hands trembled on the table. His eyes darted between me, Alvarez, and his lawyer. Finally, his lawyer muttered, "Give them back, Noah." He didn't move. "Now," Alvarez said. With a small, jerky motion, Noah reached into the pocket of his hoodie and pulled out a velvet bag. He placed it on the table with a thud. "The bracelet and ring are in there," he mumbled. "And the chain?" Tara asked evenly. He hesitated. I realized with a cold jolt that he was wearing it, gleaming faintly at his collarbone. Alvarez's voice was flat. "The necklace, Mr. Vance." Noah's face crumpled. "I can't get it off." His lawyer reached over, jaw clenched, and unclasped it. The sound of metal sliding off skin was the quietest, most satisfying sound I'd ever heard. He dropped it onto the table with a sharp clink. I exhaled slowly, the first real breath I'd taken all day. "Detective," Tara said, "as far as my client is concerned, her property has been returned. She won't be pursuing the theft charge." Alvarez nodded. "Good. And the civil suit?" The lawyer's jaw tightened. "We'll drop it, effective immediately." Alvarez closed both folders, stood, and said, "Then we're done here. If I see either of your names on a report again, it's going straight to the DA. No meetings, no warnings. Get out." We stood. Noah's chair scraped loudly against the floor. He muttered something that might have been my name, but I didn't turn around. Outside the precinct, sunlight hit my face like a slap. For the first time in weeks, the air didn't feel heavy. The aftermath wasn't cinematic. Justice costs money, and I paid for it. $5,000 in legal fees, gone from my savings. The jewelry, once mine again, sat on my table for 3 days before I took it to a consignment jeweler. He appraised it at $1,800. I took the offer. Here's the final math. Legal fees, $5,000, jewelry loss, $11,500, total cost of closure, $16,500. Painfully expensive, but worth every cent. Noah, on the other hand, walked away with nothing. No jewelry, no condo, no girlfriend, and a father furious at the legal bills that his own arrogance helped create. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he'd taken down his couple prank channel. Good. Let him sit with silence for once. I still think about the day in that sterile room, the look on his face as his own father watched him unclasp the chain from his neck, the way his bravado drained away, replaced by something small and afraid. He wanted to humiliate me for laughs. Instead, he humiliated himself for real. It wasn't a happy ending, but it was fair, and sometimes fair is enough.